I never imagined I'd feel this way, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking a little deeper every month no matter how hard I struggle to climb out. It's been years now, this gnawing pressure that lives in my chest, growing heavier every time I open a bill or check my bank account. Being a young adult in today's world feels less like a stage of life and more like a relentless test of endurance. Every day is a negotiation between what I want and what I can afford, and most days, I lose. I graduated college with a mix of hope and fear. Hope because I had a degree and a job lined up, fear because I was already carrying student loans that felt like a millstone around my neck. I thought getting a job would be my ticket out. But the truth is, the job barely pays enough to cover rent, food, and the bare essentials. The cost of living keeps rising, and my paycheck just doesn't stretch the same way it did last year, let alone 5 years ago. I live in a small apartment in a city where rent has skyrocketed. My landlord increased it again this year, saying it was just the market. I'm grateful to have a roof over my head, but every time I hand over rent money, I feel like I'm paying someone else's dream while mine stays frozen. The groceries I used to buy without much thought now require hours of planning and discount hunting. Fresh vegetables? Only if I'm lucky. I've learned to cook simple meals in bulk because eating out, even once, feels like a luxury I can't justify. Bills come in like clockwork, but the numbers keep climbing: utilities, phone, internet, insurance, and the student loan payments that never seem to decrease. I juggle everything, sometimes cutting corners where I shouldn't, just to make sure I'm not late. Yet, no matter how careful I am, I'm always waiting for the next surprise expense, a broken phone screen, a car repair, or an unexpected medical bill, to throw everything off balance. It's like playing a game where the rules keep changing, and I never get to win. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I try to keep a brave face, but inside I wrestle with feelings of shame and anxiety. Sometimes, I can't sleep because I'm replaying conversations in my head about money or imagining worst-case scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if rent goes up again? What if I have to move back in with my parents, or worse, end up without a stable place to live? The pressure makes me feel isolated. Friends talk about vacations, new gadgets, or nights out, but I smile and nod, knowing I have to say no more often than I want. There's a quiet loneliness that comes from watching others live freely while you're chained by your finances. I used to dream big, traveling the world, buying a home, starting my own business. But those dreams have been postponed indefinitely. I tell myself it's temporary, that one day I'll save enough, get a better job, or catch a lucky break. But the truth is, the longer this goes on, the more those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful, but unreachable. Sometimes, I feel a crushing weight of guilt for even wanting more, like I'm being selfish for hoping for a better life when so many others are struggling too. To cope, I found small ways to keep my hope alive. I journal, trying to remind myself of what matters beyond money. I lean on close friends who understand without judgment. I look for moments of joy in simple things: a walk in the park, a good book, a phone call with family. Those moments are lifelines that keep me anchored when the world feels overwhelming. I've also become fiercely practical. Budgeting isn't just a chore, it's survival. I've learned to say no without guilt, to prioritize essentials, and to seek out community resources when I can. I'm cautious but not without ambition. I'm applying for new jobs, learning skills online, trying to build a cushion for emergencies. Every small step feels like a victory in a marathon I didn't choose to run but am determined to finish. Still, the systemic forces feel like a giant wave pressing down on me. Wages stagnant, rent inflating, basic goods getting pricier, all while the promises of hard work paying off seem hollow. It's hard not to feel trapped in a system designed to keep people like me scrambling rather than thriving. I'm not just battling my own budget, I'm fighting a reality where the rules aren't fair, and the deck is stacked against anyone without a head start. I won't pretend I have it all figured out. Some days, I cry in frustration. Some nights, I lie awake imagining a different life. But I cling to the belief that this is a chapter, not the whole story. I hope for a future where I'm not just surviving but living fully, where I can breathe easy, take chances, and finally chase those postponed dreams. Until then, I'll keep going, one paycheck at a time, holding on to whatever hope I can find in the cracks. Because maybe, just maybe, that hope is enough to keep me moving forward. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. It's hard to put into words what it feels like to be stuck in this endless tug-of-war between bills and dreams, where every day is a balancing act on a thin wire, and one wrong step means tumbling into a pit of anxiety. I'm 27, working a steady job, but somehow it never feels steady enough. The paycheck comes in, and before I even get a chance to breathe, it's already earmarked for rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, and the small emergencies life throws at you without warning. The numbers never add up the way you hope they would. I remember a few years ago, right after college, I was optimistic, maybe naive, too. I thought if I worked hard, saved a little, and kept my expenses low, I'd be able to build something solid. Buy a car, maybe one day even get my own place without sharing walls with 5 other people. But every time I try to make progress, the ground shifts under my feet. Rent climbs again. Gas prices spike. My phone bill creeps up because I can't live without it. Even food, the basics, somehow costs more than before. It's like the system is designed to keep you just barely afloat, to make sure you're too busy surviving to really live. Some days, I sit at my kitchen table, surrounded by unopened bills and receipts, and wonder if I'm doing something wrong. I go over the math again and again. Where did it all go? How did I end up with just enough money to pay rent and utilities but not enough left for anything that feels like living? Coffee with friends? A night out? A weekend trip? Those things feel like luxuries now, distant and almost shameful to even want. I cancel plans or make excuses not to go because I can't afford to be extra on top of everything else. The weight of it seeps into my mind in quiet moments. At work, I smile and chat with coworkers, but inside, there's this gnawing tension, like a tight knot that never quite loosens. I'm constantly calculating, should I take on extra shifts? Would it help or just burn me out? Can I afford a doctor's appointment if I'm feeling worn down? Sometimes, the stress hits so hard I can barely focus on anything else. Sleep doesn't come easy. When I do manage to rest, I wake up to the same cycle, same worries. My family tries to be supportive, but I hate asking for help. I don't want to be a burden. Besides, everyone's got their own struggles. My parents remind me to be patient, to stay the course, but their idea of patience feels like a slow suffocation. How long can I keep going without falling behind? How long before I have to give up on some of the dreams I've held on to for years? I used to dream of traveling, seeing new places, meeting new people, experiencing life beyond this small bubble of constant pressure. I imagined saving up for a backpacking trip across Europe, working odd jobs, living simply but freely. But now, even the thought feels like a joke. Travel costs money I don't have, and even saving for a plane ticket feels impossible when I'm still covering last month's credit card balance. I've also thought about going back to school, maybe getting a master's degree or switching careers to something that pays better. But then the debt piles up, and the time investment feels like a luxury I can't afford. I worry about losing income while studying or adding more loans to the pile. It's a catch-22 that leaves me stuck. To cope, I try to find little moments of relief. Sometimes it's binge-watching a favorite show late at night, or cooking a simple meal that feels like a treat. I've started journaling, just to get these swirling thoughts out of my head. Writing makes it feel a bit less overwhelming, like I'm not alone in this, even if I am. I've learned to be grateful for small wins, paying off a credit card, finding a cheaper phone plan, or getting a discount on groceries. But the truth is, gratitude only goes so far. When the rent comes due and there's not enough left to cover it fully, gratitude doesn't pay the landlord. When my car breaks down and I can't fix it right away, gratitude doesn't get me to work. The harsh reality is that money, or the lack of it, shapes every choice I make, and it feels like it's shrinking the space where I can be free. I'm tired. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Sometimes, it's hard to keep hope alive when you feel like the system is rigged against you. I see the headlines about inflation, wage stagnation, and economic downturns, and I feel small in the face of such massive forces. It's like trying to swim upstream in a river that's only getting faster and deeper. Yet, even with all this pressure, I hold on to a flicker of hope. Maybe one day, I'll find a way out, a job with better pay, an opportunity to build savings, a break in the endless cycle. I dream of waking up without the weight of debt pressing on my chest, of living in a place that feels like home, not just a temporary stop. I want to believe that the hard days now are just the groundwork for something better later. I tell myself to keep going, to be patient even when patience feels impossible. Because what else is there? Giving up isn't an option, but neither is pretending it's easy. The truth is messy and complicated, filled with setbacks and small victories. I'm learning to be kind to myself, even when the world isn't. In this moment, trapped between what is and what could be, I'm just trying to breathe, to survive, and to hold on to the belief that someday, the balance might tip in my favor. Until then, I'll keep navigating the system that feels designed to hold me back, hoping that persistence and resilience can carry me through. Sometimes I wonder if the constant noise of bills piling up will ever quiet down. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but no matter how fast I move, I never get closer to the finish line. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, and still feel like I'm drowning in a sea of expenses that never stop rising. Every month, the rent goes up a little bit. Utilities spike with the seasons. Groceries, transportation, even the coffee I let myself have on the weekends, all of it gets more expensive, inch by relentless inch. Meanwhile, my paycheck feels like it's caught in quicksand, never quite sinking, but never rising either. It's exhausting. Some days, I wake up with a pit in my stomach just thinking about money. I check my bank account more times than I can count, hoping for a miracle that never comes. The pressure to keep everything together is crushing, and it seeps into every part of my life. At work, I'm distracted, worrying about how I'll afford the bus fare to get home or whether I'll have enough left over to buy groceries. It's hard to focus on anything else when your mind is constantly calculating every dollar. The hardest part is the feeling of being trapped. I grew up believing that if I worked hard and played by the rules, things would get better. I thought a steady job and some discipline would be enough. But the reality is far messier. Inflation eats away at my salary's value faster than I can keep up, and I'm caught in this vicious cycle where the more I try to climb out, the deeper the hole feels. It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's the creeping dread of never feeling secure, the constant balancing act between needs and wants, and the sting of dreams deferred. I've had to make choices that I never imagined. That vacation I promised myself after college? Postponed indefinitely. The idea of buying a car or even saving for a down payment on a place feels like a distant fantasy. Even small things, like going out with friends or upgrading my phone, have become luxuries I can't justify. I see others moving forward, buying homes or starting families, and I wonder when or if that will ever be me. It's lonely, feeling stuck in place while life seems to move on without you. Emotionally, it's a heavy weight. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if I'm doing enough or if I'm just failing at adulthood. The anxiety gnaws at me, and sometimes it's hard to admit to anyone how much this wears me down. There's a stubborn pride in not asking for help, but it also isolates me. I want to talk openly about this struggle, to say that I'm scared and tired and unsure, but I worry about being judged or misunderstood. So, I carry it all inside, like a secret burden. Yet, despite all this, I'm not ready to give up. There's a flicker of hope that keeps me going. I try to remind myself that this moment, difficult as it is, doesn't define my entire life. I lean on small victories, the days when I manage to put a little money aside, even if it's just a few dollars. I find comfort in routines, in the people who listen without judgment, in the simple pleasure of a quiet evening after a long day. I hold on to the dreams I've shelved, believing that someday, somehow, they might come back into reach. In the meantime, I'm learning to be kind to myself. To acknowledge that surviving in this economic storm is an achievement in itself. I'm figuring out how to navigate the system without losing my sense of worth or hope. It's not easy, and some days are darker than others, but I keep moving forward, step by step, paycheck by paycheck, moment by moment. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know what the future holds. But I do know this: the pressure is real, the struggle is real, and my dreams, though delayed, are still alive. And for now, that's enough to keep me going. I wake up every morning with this heavy knot in my chest, like I'm carrying a weight I didn't ask for but can't set down. It's not the kind of weight that comes from physical labor, it's the invisible, constant pressure of money. Bills stacking up faster than I can pay them, prices climbing while my paycheck feels frozen in place. This feeling is like a slow choke, tightening just a little more each day, and I don't know how to breathe through it anymore. I'm 27, living in a cramped apartment that costs more than it should, in a city where rent spikes every year like clockwork. I thought I'd be further by now, maybe owning a car, traveling once in a while, or even just having a savings cushion for emergencies. But instead, I'm here, counting every cent, trying to figure out if I can stretch the last bit of groceries until payday without resorting to instant noodles again. It's exhausting. The economic environment feels like this giant, unchangeable force that shapes every decision I make, even the ones I barely notice. When I open my phone to check the news, I see inflation numbers creeping up, interest rates going higher, housing markets still crazy expensive. It's like the whole system is rigged for things to get more expensive, while wages barely keep up. And because I'm stuck in an entry-level job with limited growth, my income isn't anywhere close to keeping pace. Every purchase feels like a calculated risk. Do I fill up my gas tank this week or buy a few more groceries? Should I skip that doctor's appointment, knowing the copay is going to set me back a week's worth of lunch money? The idea of unexpected expenses terrifies me. Car repairs, medical bills, anything outside the norm can send me spiraling. I've learned to live with a kind of anxiety that's always there, just beneath the surface, a low hum in my mind. Sometimes, I think about how my parents managed when they were my age. They worked hard, saved a little, and eventually bought a house. But things were different then. Housing was affordable, education wasn't a mountain of debt, and jobs didn't demand you be on call 24/7 for pennies. It makes me feel like I'm trapped in a cycle I can't break out of, like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up but never takes me anywhere. I often catch myself daydreaming about a future where I'm not counting every expense. I picture a small apartment with a window that lets in sunlight, a little kitchen where I can cook meals that aren't rushed or skipped. I imagine weekends where I can relax without worrying about overdraft fees or missed payments. But those dreams feel distant, almost like they belong to someone else's story. The reality is that every extra dollar I make goes toward paying off credit card debt or piling up savings for emergencies I hope won't come. My emotional well-being has taken a hit. I feel worn down, tired in a way that sleep can't fix. The constant stress makes me irritable and withdrawn. Sometimes I wonder if people around me really understand how hard it is, not just to make ends meet, but to carry the shame and frustration that come with it. I've stopped inviting friends out for drinks or dinners because I don't want to explain why I can't afford it. Instead, I hide behind a smile or a quick excuse, even though inside I feel isolated. Coping with this financial pressure means finding small ways to reclaim some sense of control. I've started budgeting every month like a drill sergeant, tracking expenses obsessively. I shop at discount stores, meal prep to avoid eating out, and have even taken on freelance gigs on nights and weekends to squeeze out extra cash. These things help, but they don't erase the underlying feeling that no matter how hard I work, the system isn't designed for people like me to thrive. The pandemic made things worse: lost hours, stalled raises, and skyrocketing costs for essentials. But it also made me realize something important: I'm not alone. So many of my friends are struggling in silence, juggling multiple jobs or dealing with debt that feels like quicksand. We talk about these things now more openly, sharing tips, venting frustrations. It's a small comfort, but it's something. There are dreams I've had to postpone, going back to school, traveling, even thinking about buying a home someday. Sometimes I feel guilt about that, like I'm failing myself or the expectations I set when I was younger. But then I remind myself that survival is a victory too. Keeping a roof over my head, making sure I can pay my bills on time, that's no small feat. It's just hard to hold on to hope when the future feels like a distant, foggy place. Sometimes, late at night, I write down these feelings. It's a kind of therapy, a way to let out the weight I carry inside. I remind myself that my worth isn't defined by my bank balance, even though it feels like the world measures us that way. I'm more than the sum of my debts and bills. I hope for a day when the system changes, when wages reflect the true cost of living, when housing is affordable, and when people like me don't feel trapped in this endless cycle. Until then, I'll keep fighting. I'll keep working, saving, and dreaming, even if those dreams have to be small for now. Because holding on to hope is the only way not to be crushed by the weight of it all. This story isn't just mine, it's the story of so many young adults caught in the same storm. And maybe by sharing it, I'm not just unburdening myself, I'm also reminding others they're not alone. That's the truth I live with every day. I never thought I'd be here, caught in this endless tug-of-war between what I earn and what I owe. Every morning I wake up with this familiar, heavy weight sitting on my chest, like a storm cloud that's been hovering just above me for years. It's this gnawing feeling of being trapped in a system that seems designed to squeeze every bit of breath out of me. Expenses rising faster than my paycheck, bills piling up, and a future that feels more like a distant mirage than a real possibility. I'm 26 now, graduated with what I thought was a solid degree, full of hope and plans. I had dreams, big ones. I imagined traveling, maybe buying a small apartment, and building a life that felt secure. But the reality hit hard, and it hit fast. The job market was tough, the rent in my city kept climbing, and every unexpected expense felt like a punch to the gut. Medical bills, car repairs, the cost of groceries, nothing stands still, everything just inches forward, always outpacing my income. On a typical day, I start by checking my bank account, a ritual that's become almost painful. The numbers never look quite right. Sometimes, after paying rent and utilities, there's barely anything left to cover food and transportation. I catch myself calculating how many days I can go without buying coffee, or if I should risk eating something cheaper but less healthy. I know these choices sound small, but they accumulate and shape every moment. Choosing between a nourishing meal or a cheaper option isn't just about money, it's about what kind of energy I'll have to face the day, how I'll keep my focus at work, and how I'll stave off the creeping exhaustion that comes with constant worry. The financial pressure stretches into every corner of my life. I don't visit friends as often because I can't afford nights out, and I dodge invitations to do things that have a price tag attached. It's isolating. The feeling of missing out, not because I don't want to be there, but because my wallet won't let me. Sometimes I pretend I'm okay with it, but deep down, it stings. I'm young. Shouldn't life be more than just balancing survival? Emotions run high under this kind of stress. There's guilt that I can't provide for myself the way I imagined, guilt that maybe I'm not trying hard enough. There's frustration, too, at a system where it feels like the deck is stacked against people like me. Watching news about inflation rising and wages stagnating just adds fuel to the fire. The fear of what happens if I lose this job, or if an emergency strikes, is always lurking. I lie awake some nights, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios, wondering if I'll ever climb out of this hole. Coping has been a journey. I've learned to budget obsessively, tracking every cent like it's a precious resource. I use apps that remind me when bills are due so I don't get hit with late fees. I've cut out any unnecessary subscriptions, stopped buying new clothes unless absolutely necessary, and learned to cook almost everything at home, even when I'm exhausted. Still, none of this feels like enough. Sometimes I try to escape it all by diving into books, or going for long walks, or meditating. These moments offer a brief reprieve, but the underlying pressure always returns. I've started journaling my feelings, a way to give voice to the overwhelm and loneliness that don't have a place in casual conversations. Because who really wants to admit they're struggling just to keep their head above water? Not me, not usually. But writing it down helps. It makes me feel less invisible. Then there are the dreams I've had to put on hold. Travel, for one. I used to picture myself wandering through old European cities, soaking in different cultures, learning new languages. Now, I can't even imagine setting aside the money for a weekend trip. Buying a home feels like an impossible fantasy. I watch friends around me make big life moves, getting engaged, buying cars, moving to bigger places, and I cheer for them, but it's bittersweet. It's a reminder of what feels just out of reach for me. Despite all this, I still hold on to hope. It's fragile and flickering, but it's there. I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not the whole story. I try to focus on small victories, like finally paying off a credit card, or managing to save a tiny amount this month. I dream quietly about a day when I'll feel less anxious opening my bank app, when my income might actually catch up with my expenses. Most of all, I want to believe that I'm not alone in this. That others feel this pressure, too, and that together maybe we can find ways to break the cycle. For now, I keep going because what else is there to do? Each day is a mix of exhaustion and determination, fear and resilience. And though the system feels unforgiving, I'm still here, still trying, still hoping for a brighter horizon. It's hard, and it's messy, but it's my story, honest, vulnerable, and real. I never thought I'd find myself stuck in this endless loop, where every day feels like I'm just treading water, trying not to drown. I'm 26, living in a city that's growing faster than I can keep up with, and despite working 2 jobs, I'm always behind. It's like the bills multiply overnight, and my paycheck barely stretches to cover the basics. The cost of rent, groceries, transportation, it all climbs higher, while my income stays stubbornly flat. I can feel the weight of it pressing down on me, heavier with each passing month. It's exhausting, both physically and mentally. I wake up each morning with this knot of anxiety tight in my chest, wondering how I'll make it through another day without slipping further into debt or missing a payment. Sometimes I lie awake at night, running the numbers in my head, trying to figure out where I can cut back more, only to realize there's almost nothing left to trim. Skipping meals, taking fewer showers, walking miles instead of taking the bus, small sacrifices pile up until I feel like I'm shrinking into myself. I remember the dreams I had when I was younger, before the weight of money clouded everything. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond these city limits. I wanted to go back to school, maybe study something I loved, not just something practical that promised a paycheck. I dreamed of owning a small apartment, having a stable home to call my own. Now, those hopes feel distant, almost like luxuries I can't afford to entertain. It's painful to admit how much I've had to put on hold, how many times I've told myself, not now. Maybe someday. The economic environment around me feels like a storm I'm trying to survive in. Inflation eats away at what little I save. Every month, rent goes up, groceries cost more, utilities spike. My hourly wage hasn't budged, and any raises I've gotten barely keep pace with these increases. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every time I try to catch up. The system is set up so that people like me keep spinning our wheels, working harder but never moving forward. I sometimes feel trapped, like I'm inside a cage made of expenses and debts, the bars tightening with each unexpected cost, medical bills, car repairs, or even a broken phone. Emergencies that anyone else might shrug off feel catastrophic to me. When I hear about people buying homes or starting families, I feel a mix of envy and sadness. Why is it so easy for them and so impossible for me? I know I'm not alone in this struggle, but that knowledge doesn't make it hurt any less. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Some days I'm determined, telling myself I can make it, that this is just a phase. Other days I'm overwhelmed, the pressure so intense that it seeps into every thought, making it hard to focus or feel hopeful. I sometimes catch myself withdrawing from friends and family because I don't want to admit how bad things are, or because I'm embarrassed to say I can't afford to go out or join in. Isolation creeps in, and loneliness follows. To cope, I've learned to be incredibly resourceful. I meal prep with cheap ingredients, scouring discount aisles and cooking in bulk. I hunt for side gigs online, hoping to add a few extra dollars to my income. I've become obsessed with budgeting apps and financial advice blogs, desperate to find any edge. But these aren't cures, just bandages for a deeper wound. The system is broken, and I'm just a small piece trying to keep from breaking apart. Despite everything, I cling to hope. I still believe that someday I'll have stability, that I'll be able to breathe easier and stop counting every cent. I want to get back to my dreams, to travel, to learn, to build a life where money isn't the constant shadow hanging over me. But for now, those dreams are deferred, waiting patiently for a time when the storm calms and the treadmill slows. Writing this down makes me realize how deeply this financial pressure affects not just my wallet, but my sense of self and my future. It's more than numbers, it's the daily grind of survival, the emotional toll of feeling stuck, and the quiet grief of putting dreams on hold. I'm just a young adult trying to find my way in a world that often feels designed to hold me back. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still hoping. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this loop where every day feels like a race I'm losing, where money is a constant shadow that's never quite within reach. I'm 26, working full-time, trying to keep up with rent, bills, groceries, and the little things that make life bearable. But it's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up faster than I can run. The cost of everything keeps going up, but my paycheck stays almost the same, and it's crushing. Most mornings, I wake up feeling a knot in my stomach before I even get out of bed. It's not just the stress about paying bills, it's the weight of what this means for my whole life. I start my day scrolling through my bank app, hoping for a miracle, a few dollars more than I expected. That hope fades quick. My savings? Almost non-existent. Any unexpected expense, like a car repair, or even a medical copay, throws me into panic. I try to plan for the future, but it feels like planning for tomorrow is hard enough. The economic environment feels like a wall closing in. Rent prices have skyrocketed where I live. What used to be a reasonable two-bedroom apartment now costs more than half my salary. So I share a cramped apartment with a roommate. Privacy? Forget it. Comfort? A distant memory. But it's the only way to keep a roof over my head. Every month, I have to decide between paying full rent on time or covering other essentials. Sometimes I juggle payments, paying a little late, explaining myself to landlords or companies who are not exactly patient. Groceries are another battlefield. I've gotten so used to scanning price tags and calculating whether that extra item will push me over budget. Fresh vegetables? Sometimes a luxury. I've learned to cook in bulk, freeze meals, and eat the same thing for days. It's not glamorous or enjoyable, it's survival. But I remind myself that eating something is better than going hungry. Work is exhausting, but I can't afford to quit or even reduce hours. I often feel invisible at my job, like just another cog in a big machine. My bosses push for more output, more results, but offer no raise. Overtime is unpaid or minimal, and any chance of promotion seems like a dream from a different life. I spend so much energy on the job, yet the stress follows me home, gnawing at my peace. Social life? Almost non-existent. Friends invite me out, but I decline because even a small dinner or movie means spending money I don't have. The isolation can be lonely. I miss laughing without the background noise of financial anxiety. Celebrations feel bittersweet. How can I enjoy a birthday when my credit card bill waits for me at home? The emotional toll is immense. Some nights, I lie awake thinking, will it always be like this? It's like I'm trapped in a system built to keep people like me barely afloat, while everything around me, housing, food, transportation, gets more expensive every year. I feel powerless, frustrated, and sometimes ashamed. Shame that I can't afford things others take for granted. Shame that I have to say no to dreams I once had. I remember wanting to travel, to study more, maybe even start my own business someday. Now, those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful but unreachable. I postponed saving for school, delayed buying a car that would make commuting easier, and put off visits home to see family because plane tickets are too expensive. The future feels uncertain, fragile. But I try to cope in small ways. I write sometimes, journaling to get the worries out of my head. I walk in the park to clear my mind. I call a friend when I need to hear a human voice, even if I can't meet up in person. And I hold on to hope, however faint, that things can get better. Maybe through hard work, maybe through luck, maybe through some change in the system that feels so rigged against people like me. I want to believe that one day, the treadmill will slow down. That I can finally breathe, plan beyond next month, and maybe build a life that isn't just about surviving. For now, I'm doing my best to keep going, even when it feels impossible. Because giving up would mean losing the last bit of light I have left. I never imagined that being in my mid-20s would feel like this, like I'm constantly paddling upstream, trying not to drown in a flood of bills and prices that keep climbing while my paycheck barely moves. It's hard to put into words the weight of living day to day with this constant financial pressure pressing down on me, but here goes. Maybe by sharing it, I can unpack some of the heaviness I carry. I grew up believing that if I worked hard and made smart choices, I'd be okay. Go to college, get a steady job, pay off my student loans, maybe even save enough for a little apartment of my own someday. But the reality feels so different. The cost of rent alone feels like a mountain I can't climb. Each month, after I pay the landlord, the leftover money feels like crumbs, barely enough for groceries, utilities, and the inevitable emergencies. And emergencies do come, like the time my laptop died and I had to shell out money I didn't really have to fix it because without it, I couldn't work or apply for jobs. Or the car repairs that made me skip meals for a week. It's not just about the money itself. It's the endless calculations and compromises I have to make. Should I buy groceries now or wait another day and risk eating less? Should I pay the electricity bill today and risk getting cut off or skip it and hope the power stays on? These aren't decisions anyone should have to make in their 20s, but they've become my daily routine. There's this gnawing feeling of being trapped in a system that's designed to keep people like me scrambling. Every time I think I might have a little breathing room, something else comes up. The rent goes up again, or my insurance premium jumps. Meanwhile, my paycheck stays stubbornly the same, caught in a cycle of slow raises that don't even come close to matching inflation. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, the scenery never changes. I see other people buying homes, traveling, investing in their futures, and I can't help but feel left behind, not because I'm lazy or bad with money, but because the playing field is so uneven. The pressure leaks into everything I do. Social events cost money I don't have, so I say no more often than I want to. When friends invite me out, I smile and make excuses, but inside, I'm grieving the loss of spontaneous fun, the carefree nights I used to imagine having. It's isolating. I sometimes wonder if people think I'm distant or disinterested, but really, I'm just conserving what little resources I have, time, energy, money, to keep myself afloat. My emotional well-being suffers too. There's a constant background noise of anxiety. I lie awake some nights, running through bills in my head, wondering how I'll make it all stretch. I've had moments where it feels like the walls are closing in, like I'm drowning in a sea of numbers I can't control. It's exhausting and humiliating to admit, but sometimes I cry alone because it feels like the system is bigger than me, and I'm losing. I try to cope the best I can. I track every dollar obsessively, clipping coupons, hunting for sales, skipping luxuries that used to feel essential, coffee, new clothes, even doctor visits. I've learned to cook almost everything at home, become a pro at budgeting apps, and I'm always on the lookout for side gigs, even if they're small and don't pay well. But it's not enough to close the gap between my expenses and my income. There's a strange kind of guilt too. Guilt over wanting more, guilt over not being able to provide more for myself or others. I have dreams, like owning a home, traveling to places I've only seen in pictures, saving enough to feel secure. But those dreams have been pushed back again and again. Sometimes it feels like I'm stuck in a holding pattern, watching life pass by while I try to hold on. Still, I cling to hope. Hope that one day I'll find a job that pays better, that wages will rise faster than prices, that maybe policies will change to help people like me. I try to remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank account, even though it feels that way sometimes. I look for joy in small moments, a good book, a walk in the park, a kind word from a stranger. This ongoing financial pressure isn't just a hardship, it's a lens through which I see the world differently now. I understand more deeply the struggles so many face silently. I want to believe that by telling my story, I'm not alone, and maybe others who feel this way will know they aren't either. We deserve a future where financial pressure doesn't dictate every choice we make, where the promise of adulthood isn't just about survival, but about thriving. For now, I keep going, paddling against the current, holding on to the hope that someday, the tide will turn. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up every morning to the same silent alarm, the gnawing pressure in my chest reminding me that I owe more than I earn, and somehow, the gap only feels like it's widening. It's not a dramatic awakening, like the kind you see in movies where the protagonist has a sudden epiphany or a moment of rage that sparks change. No, this pressure is slow, almost invisible, like a weight that presses steadily down on my spirit and makes every breath a bit harder to take. I'm 26 now, officially out in the world, with a job and a tiny apartment that costs half my paycheck. It's the kind of place where the walls are thin enough to hear every argument, every shout from neighbors who probably have their own mountains of worries. I moved here because it was the most affordable spot I could find in this city. Affordable, in this case, meaning barely within reach, and I still have to stretch every dollar to make rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and the occasional necessity fit. When I graduated college, I thought the world would open up for me. I had plans, big dreams about traveling, maybe going back to school for a master's degree, or even just having the financial freedom to enjoy my life without counting every cent. But instead, what I found was an economic environment that felt like it was rigged against people like me. The cost of living climbs higher every month, but my salary stays almost the same. Inflation makes groceries more expensive, rent goes up again every year, and utility bills creep higher as the seasons change. It's exhausting. The more I try to get ahead, the more it feels like I'm sinking. Some mornings, I stare at my phone screen as I open my banking app, trying to brace myself for the balance I already know won't be enough. And it's not just the numbers, it's the feeling that no matter how hard I work, I'm trapped in this cycle where expenses grow faster than income. It's like running on a treadmill set to an impossible speed. I run and run, but I'm stuck in place, and sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be able to step off and catch my breath. It affects everything. When I go grocery shopping, I'm not picking what I want or even necessarily what's healthiest, I'm picking what's on sale, what stretches furthest, what won't spoil before I can eat it all. I skip doctor appointments because copays feel like luxuries I can't afford. I cancel plans with friends because the cost of going out, transportation, a drink, a meal, just isn't worth it. Even my wardrobe has become a collection of hand-me-downs and sales rack finds, items that don't really reflect who I am but keep me presentable. And it's lonely. There's a constant underlying sense of shame, like I'm failing at being an adult. Watching peers buy cars, travel, or even just enjoy weekends without worrying about money makes me feel isolated. I want to tell someone how hard it is to hold on to hope when you're drowning in bills, but it feels like no one would understand. We all talk about making it, but what happens when making it feels impossible? Some nights, the anxiety sneaks in so deeply that it makes it hard to sleep. I lie awake imagining what my life would be like if I had more financial freedom, if I could pursue that master's degree, if I could afford to take a trip just to see the world outside this bubble of pressure. I think about saving for a car or even just a better laptop that wouldn't crash mid-shift, but those dreams have been pushed further and further down the line. It's not that I don't want them anymore, it's just that survival has to come first. Coping is a daily challenge. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, that there are others feeling the same invisible squeeze. Sometimes I talk to friends about it, and though they can't solve the problem, just sharing helps a little. I find tiny moments of joy in simple things: a walk in the park, a second-hand book, cooking a meal from scratch that tastes like victory. I keep a journal where I write down what I'm grateful for, even if it feels small. These things don't erase the financial strain, but they help me keep my sanity. Most days, I feel like I'm balancing on a knife's edge. One unexpected expense, a medical bill, a broken appliance, a late rent payment, could throw everything into chaos. The uncertainty is exhausting, but somehow, I keep going because giving up isn't really an option. I remind myself that this is temporary, even if it doesn't feel that way. Maybe, one day, I'll get a raise, or find a better job, or the economy will shift in ways that help people like me finally catch a break. Until then, I live in this tension between reality and hope, between sacrifice and longing. I'm learning to be kind to myself, to accept that progress is slow and sometimes invisible. The system may feel like it's stacked against me, but I'm still here. I'm still trying. And even when it feels like I'm trapped, I hold on to the possibility that someday, somehow, I'll find a way to breathe a little easier. That hope, fragile, but persistent, is what keeps me going through the long days and restless nights. I wake up every morning to the same gnawing knot in my stomach, a tightness that's been building for years, even though no one really sees it. The kind of pressure that's invisible but crushing, like the air around me is too thick to breathe properly. It's a weight I carry with me from the moment my eyes open to the second they close, and it's all because of money, or more accurately, the lack of it. I'm 26 now, and for as long as I can remember, I've been scrambling just to keep up. Not with the flashy things, not with some glamorous life, just with the basics. Rent, groceries, bills, student loans, transportation. Every single month, the numbers in my bank account shrink while the prices on everything else climb. It's like the world expects me to run a race where the finish line keeps moving further away, no matter how hard I sprint. Some days, I feel trapped inside this system that's built to make sure people like me stay exactly where we are. I work a steady job, 8 to 5, 5 days a week, trying to stretch every dollar. But my paycheck, as steady as it may be, doesn't stretch nearly far enough. Rent takes up half before I even think about food. Utilities, internet, phone bills, little things that add up and gnaw at what's left. Then there's the unexpected, a busted washing machine, a medical copay, a car repair. Suddenly, what seemed manageable becomes a crisis. I've had to make choices no one should have to face at 26. Do I eat this week, or do I put that money toward the phone bill? Do I skip my antidepressants because I can't afford them this month? Do I stay late at work to pick up an extra shift or go home exhausted and face the pile of unopened mail? Every day feels like balancing on the edge of a knife. The emotional toll is harder to describe. It's not just stress or anxiety, it's a dull, persistent ache of hopelessness. Sometimes I lie awake at night thinking about the future, and it feels like there's nothing but fog. Dreams I had when I was younger, traveling, owning my own place, even just having a little financial cushion, feel like distant myths now. I try to tell myself those things can wait, that I'm doing what I need to survive. But survival feels so limited, so small. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house. I was so excited, finally independent, ready to take on the world. But reality hit me fast. The apartment was smaller than I imagined, in a neighborhood far from the city center. The rent was already a stretch. I took the first job I could get, thinking it was a stepping stone. Years later, here I am, still in the same neighborhood, same job, same paycheck. I'm stuck in this loop, and it terrifies me. I try to cope the best I can. I cut back on anything that feels like a luxury, no more weekend outings, no more spontaneous dinners, no more clothes unless absolutely necessary. I've learned to cook cheaply, to coupon obsessively, to find the cheapest bus routes. I talk to friends less, because socializing costs money, and sometimes the guilt of saying no is overwhelming. I lie awake wondering if I'll ever be able to say yes without counting every cent. Then there's the shame. It's not just about the money, it's about how society views you when you're struggling financially. People assume you're lazy, irresponsible, or just not trying hard enough. I've had friends tell me, just get a better job, like it's that simple. But it's not. There are degrees and certifications I can't afford, jobs that require connections I don't have, and a job market that feels designed to exploit rather than support. I want to believe things will get better. I cling to small hopes, maybe a promotion, a raise, or some unexpected opportunity. But those hopes are fragile, like glass teetering on the edge of a table. When my landlord raises rent again, or when gas prices jump, those hopes shatter a little more. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about the dreams I've had to postpone. Saving for a car to make my commute easier. Putting money aside to travel and see the world. Taking courses to change careers or start a small business. Even just having enough to go out for a nice dinner with friends without feeling anxious about the bill. All those things are on hold, indefinitely. But despite everything, I'm still here. I'm still trying. Every day I choose to get up, to go to work, to manage the chaos and the stress. I find small joys in the little things, a good book borrowed from the library, a walk in the park, a text from a friend checking in. Those moments remind me that life isn't only about money, even though money affects almost everything. I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to break free from this cycle. But I do know that I'm not alone. There are so many of us caught in the same struggle, trying to hold on to dignity and hope when the system seems set up to push us down. And maybe that shared struggle is a kind of quiet resistance. So I keep moving forward. Step by step, paycheck by paycheck. Holding on to whatever hope I can find, even when it feels small. Because if I stop, even for a moment, I'm afraid the weight of this system will bury me completely. That's my truth, messy, painful, and stubbornly real. I never thought I'd find myself here, caught in this relentless cycle where no matter how hard I work, it feels like the ground beneath me keeps slipping away. At 27, I'm supposed to be building my life, maybe saving for a home, planning trips with friends, thinking about graduate school. But instead, every day is just about keeping my head above water. The economy isn't kind these days, not for people like me. Rent's gone up twice in the last year alone, groceries cost more than I remember, and the bus fare that used to be a trivial expense now feels like a pinch every time I swipe my card. My income has stayed the same, or worse, barely keeps pace with inflation, so it's this suffocating squeeze. Bills come in, and I stare at the numbers like they're a puzzle designed to break me. Utilities, credit card minimums, student loans, all these demands that don't care if I'm tired or stressed or if I just want a little peace. Some mornings, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest. It's the anticipation of the day's small defeats. Maybe I can't afford to grab coffee with a friend, or maybe I have to skip that haircut I desperately need. I've started to cancel plans, not because I don't want to see people, but because I know the cost will follow me for days. When friends talk about going out or traveling, I smile and nod, but inside I'm already retreating. These things feel like luxuries I can't touch. It's funny how the system makes you feel invisible. Like your struggles are your own fault, even though you're doing everything right. I have a full-time job, good work ethic, and I try to budget carefully. But there's always something, the car repair that couldn't wait, the doctor's visit I couldn't put off. Expenses rise faster than my paycheck, and it's this never-ending race with no finish line. It's exhausting. Some nights, I lie awake, trying to calculate how I can stretch what little I have, making mental lists of where to cut back, but there's only so much you can trim before life itself starts to feel bare. Sometimes, I find myself caught in a kind of numbness, like I'm going through the motions just to survive. I've had to postpone so many dreams that once felt so close. I thought by now I'd be able to save for a small apartment of my own, maybe start investing or at least put away money for emergencies. But instead, I'm still in this tiny, shared apartment where I constantly hear my neighbors arguing through the thin walls, trying not to think about the next rent hike. The idea of buying a house feels like a cruel joke. How could I ever save enough with my paycheck? And graduate school? I've had to shelve that hope because the idea of more debt terrifies me more than I can say. Still, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this is temporary, that I'm doing what I can and that maybe things will get better. Sometimes, I daydream about a future where I'm not just surviving but thriving, where I can wake up without anxiety gnawing at my stomach, where I can spend on things that bring me joy instead of guilt. But even those daydreams have started to feel distant, like a mirage that fades when I get too close. I cope in small ways, late-night walks to clear my head, cooking meals from scratch to save money, making playlists that make me feel less alone. I talk to a few close friends who understand that my no is not because I don't want to be with them, but because I simply can't afford it. Writing helps, too. Sometimes I put all my frustrations on paper, and it feels like I'm releasing some of the pressure. But most of all, I just want the world to see that this isn't about laziness or bad choices. It's about a system that's stacked against people like me, where the cost of living climbs endlessly while incomes stay flat. I want people to understand what it's like to feel trapped in this economic squeeze, to wake up every day wondering if today will be the day you finally fall behind too far to recover. So here I am, still pushing forward, even when it feels impossible. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know how this story will end. But I do know one thing: I'm more than my financial struggles. I'm still dreaming, still fighting, even if it's just for a little breathing room in a world that demands so much. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for now. I never imagined my 20s would feel like this, like I was constantly treading water in an ocean that's growing rougher by the day. It's not just about having less money than I want or need, it's the way everything feels heavier, like I'm stuck inside a system that's designed to keep me running faster but never moving forward. Every morning, I wake up with this knot in my stomach. The first thought that hits me isn't about the day ahead, but about the bills waiting to be paid, the rent creeping higher, the price of groceries inching up every week. It's exhausting. I check my bank account like a ritual, hoping maybe somehow I've misread the numbers, or maybe a forgotten paycheck landed in there overnight. But it's always the same: less than I need, less than I hoped. I work a steady job, but the paycheck feels like it's tied to a treadmill that speeds up faster than I can run. Rent gobbles up half of it, my tiny apartment in a city that never feels cheap. Utilities, phone bill, transportation, they all pile up, demanding their slice. And then there's food, not the fancy meals I sometimes scroll past on Instagram but the basic stuff, the stuff that keeps me alive but never feels like a treat. I've learned to cut corners wherever I can. I clip coupons, buy in bulk, meal prep obsessively so I don't fall into the trap of takeout. But even these small savings sometimes feel like drops in a bucket that's leaking faster than I can fill it. Every new expense, a broken phone screen, a necessary doctor's visit, a car repair, feels like a crisis that throws me off balance. I can't just fix these things without worrying how it'll affect my ability to pay next month's rent. There's this gnawing feeling of being trapped. It's not just about money, it's about the way the system seems built to keep people like me locked in this cycle. Wages don't keep pace with inflation. Every year, the cost of living jumps, but my income barely budges. I watch the news, I read reports about economic growth and recovery, but none of it touches my reality. I'm not seeing recovery, I'm seeing survival. Some days I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, if I just need to hustle harder, get a second job, go back to school for a higher-paying career. But then I think about how many others are in the same boat, how many are juggling multiple jobs and still can't make ends meet. It's not just me. It's a structural problem, and it's exhausting to wrestle with it every single day. The stress is constant. It's not just financial, it's emotional. I find myself withdrawing from friends because I can't afford to go out, or I feel embarrassed to say no when they invite me. Social media is both a window and a trap. I see people living what look like effortless lives, traveling, eating out, buying things I can only dream of. It's easy to feel invisible, like I'm missing out on a life that's supposed to be mine too. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about the dreams I've had to postpone. Going back to school, traveling, buying a home, saving for retirement, they all feel like luxuries now, things I have to shelve indefinitely. Instead, I focus on putting one foot in front of the other, on not falling behind. It's a slow grind, a day-to-day battle between hope and the harshness of reality. But even with all this, I hold on to small sparks of hope. Maybe it's naive, but I believe change is possible. I'm learning to advocate for myself, to build skills that might open doors, and to find moments of joy wherever I can. I find peace in simple things, a good book, a walk in the park, the warmth of sunlight through my window. These moments remind me that I am more than my financial struggles. Still, the weight of it all is real. Being young and feeling this trapped, it's like living in a pressure cooker. The constant worry, the never-ending to-do list, the sacrifices, they wear you down. But I try to remind myself that this is not a reflection of my worth, nor the limit of my potential. I want to tell anyone else feeling this way that you're not alone. That it's okay to feel overwhelmed, to feel tired, to feel scared. And it's okay to keep dreaming, even when the path seems blocked. Because the future isn't fixed, it's shaped by every small choice, every moment of resilience, every bit of hope we manage to hold on to. I never thought I'd end up here, stuck in this constant loop where no matter how hard I try, I just can't seem to get ahead. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while my legs get heavier with each step. Every day is a battle against numbers, bills that keep piling up, prices that keep rising, and a paycheck that barely budges. And the worst part? Feeling like the whole system is designed to keep me trapped, never letting me break free. I'm 27 now. When I graduated college, I had hope. I believed if I worked hard, stayed disciplined, and made smart choices, I'd be able to carve out a life for myself, one where I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder at my bank balance. But the world I stepped into was different from the one I imagined. Rent skyrocketing, groceries costing more every week, utilities that seem to demand more money for less service. The price of just existing feels like it's accelerating faster than anything I can earn. I live alone in a small apartment in the city. It's nothing fancy, but the rent eats up almost half of my monthly income. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it. Why pay so much to live in a place that feels more like a cage than a home? The building's old, the walls thin, and the heating barely works, yet it's the cheapest spot I could find within a reasonable commute to work. Moving farther out would mean longer transit times and more expenses on transportation, another vicious cycle. So I stay here, pinching pennies, hoping for some relief that never comes. Bills come like clockwork: electricity, water, internet, phone. I keep a spreadsheet where I track everything, hoping that if I see the numbers laid out clearly, I can somehow manage them better. But seeing it all in black and white just makes it worse, because the totals are always more than what I have left after rent and groceries. That's when the real stress sets in. Some days, I avoid opening my bank app because I don't want to face the reality that my account is dwindling. There's this gnawing anxiety that creeps in: what if I miss a payment? What if something unexpected happens? The fear of falling behind feels like a weight I carry everywhere. Groceries used to be a simple joy. I used to cook meals from scratch, experimenting with recipes and looking forward to those little moments of creativity. Now, I buy whatever's on sale or whatever's cheapest, often sacrificing nutrition just to stretch my dollars. Frozen meals, instant noodles, canned goods have become staples. Sometimes I skip meals altogether, telling myself I'm not really hungry, just tired or stressed. It's hard to admit that I'm hungry but also scared of spending money on food I might not need, even though I do. Social life? Almost non-existent. I can't afford nights out, dinners with friends, or weekend trips. I've had to say no to invitations more times than I can count. It's isolating, watching others enjoy experiences that feel so out of reach. The loneliness is a quiet companion, making the financial pressure feel heavier. I'm grateful for the few friends who understand and don't judge when I can't join them. But sometimes I worry I'm becoming invisible, retreating further into this world of numbers and worry. Work is steady but doesn't pay nearly enough. I'm in a service job, hours are long and often unpredictable. There's little chance for advancement, and raises barely keep pace with inflation. I've thought about going back to school or retraining, but even that feels like a luxury I can't afford. Tuition, books, lost income, it's a mountain I don't know if I can climb. Sometimes I wonder if the dream I had for a better career is just that, a dream I have to shelve indefinitely. Debt lurks in the background like a shadow I can't shake. Student loans, credit card balances, each one a reminder of promises made and obligations I must meet. I try to pay them down a little each month, but the minimum payments feel like a trap, barely touching the principal and mostly feeding interest. It's discouraging. I've considered consolidating or seeking advice, but it's overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and sometimes I feel lost in the sea of financial jargon and conflicting advice. Yet, amidst all this, I try to find small ways to cope. I walk when I can instead of taking the bus, to save money and clear my head. I write sometimes, jotting down my thoughts in a journal, trying to process the mess inside. Music helps, too, a few favorite songs that remind me I'm not alone in feeling this way. I dream quietly, almost secretly, about a time when I'll have enough freedom to breathe, to travel, to invest in myself without the crushing anxiety of bills. I've had to postpone so many dreams. Buying a car, moving into a nicer place, traveling abroad, even starting a family one day, all seem like distant horizons. Sometimes it feels like I'm sacrificing my future just to survive today. But I hold on to hope because what else can I do? I remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels permanent right now. The hardest part is feeling like the system isn't built for people like me. That no matter how hard I work, the rising costs and stagnant wages keep me stuck. It's not just about money, it's about dignity, about feeling valued, about having the chance to grow and thrive. I wish there were more conversations about what it's really like to live like this, to be a young adult juggling dreams and despair. For now, I'll keep moving forward one day at a time. I'll keep tracking the numbers, tightening the budget, and searching for moments of joy wherever they hide. Because even in the hardest times, there's a part of me that refuses to give up on the possibility of something better. Maybe that's enough, for now. But I'm tired. So tired of feeling trapped in a system that keeps demanding more than I can give. I never thought financial pressure would become the backdrop of my entire life, but here I am, navigating day after day with this constant, nagging weight on my chest. It's hard to describe exactly what it feels like, this blend of frustration, fear, and exhaustion, but it's there, always, like a shadow that refuses to leave me alone. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, I've worked hard. I got a decent degree, landed a steady job, and tried to keep my expenses low. But no matter what I do, it feels like the costs around me just keep climbing faster than my paycheck. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, they all rise, inch by painful inch, while my income stays stubbornly flat. I know inflation is everywhere, but it hits differently when your wallet is already stretched thin. Every morning, I wake up with a mental checklist that weighs heavier than the physical world. Did I pay the phone bill? Is there enough left for groceries this week? Should I skip the occasional coffee to save a few bucks? Should I take on extra shifts, even if it means less sleep? These questions aren't just practical, they're draining. They sap the joy from simple pleasures, making everything feel transactional. I catch myself calculating costs for things that used to feel trivial, like catching the bus instead of taking a lift or choosing generic brands at the supermarket. It's more than just numbers, though. It's the feeling of being trapped. Like I'm stuck in a system designed to keep me just barely afloat, while the finish line moves further away. I remember a time when I dreamed about owning a home, traveling, maybe even going back to school for a master's degree. Those dreams don't feel impossible, they feel distant, almost irresponsible to think about now. How can I plan for the future when I'm constantly firefighting the present? When every month feels like a race just to cover bills? This financial pressure doesn't just affect my decisions, it invades my emotional space. I get anxious whenever unexpected expenses pop up, a car repair, a medical bill, or even a friend's birthday gift. The stress feels physical sometimes, a tightness in my chest that won't go away. I've caught myself lying awake at night, replaying every dollar I spent that day, wondering if I could have done something differently. It's exhausting, like a low-grade panic that never fully disappears. I don't want to feel bitter, but it's hard not to when it seems like the system is stacked against people like me. I hear stories about rising CEO salaries, booming stock markets, and the gig economy making money for some, but for me, it just means more instability and unpredictability. Freelance work is tempting, but it's a gamble I'm not sure I can afford. Stability is a rare commodity, and I cling to it even if it comes with a paycheck that barely covers essentials. Sometimes, I try to cope by finding small escapes, watching a favorite show, reading a book, or going for a walk in the park. These moments feel precious because they remind me there's still life beyond the numbers. But the relief is temporary. The bills are waiting when I get back, and the cycle starts again. I've also tried talking about this with friends, but many of them seem to be in different places financially or emotionally. It feels isolating when your worries don't quite fit the conversations around you. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels endless right now. I dream about a time when I won't have to second-guess every purchase, when I can save instead of scramble. I want to believe that small sacrifices today will build a foundation for a better tomorrow, even if that tomorrow feels blurry and uncertain. But hope doesn't erase the daily struggle. It's hard to be patient when you're living paycheck to paycheck, watching expenses balloon while your income lags behind. It's hard to dream when the present demands so much. And it's hard to keep your head above water when the tide keeps rising, relentless and unforgiving. This is my reality, a young adult caught in the grinding machinery of an economic system that seems indifferent to the people it's supposed to serve. I'm tired, but I'm still here, still trying to find a way forward. Sometimes, that's all you can do. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. I never thought money would feel like such a heavy weight pressing down on me every single day. Growing up, I imagined adulthood as this exciting time full of independence and possibility. But now, in my mid-20s, it feels like I'm caught in a slow, grinding machine, one that spins faster and faster, but never actually moves me forward. My job pays the bills, but just barely. The paycheck arrives and disappears almost immediately, swallowed by rent, groceries, utilities, and those unexpected expenses that always seem to pop up. The price of everything keeps climbing: groceries, gas, even my phone bill. Yet, my salary has barely budged in years. The gap between what I earn and what I owe just keeps widening, like an invisible chasm I can't cross. It's exhausting. I wake up every morning already anxious, wondering if this month I'll make it without having to borrow money or skip something important. That nagging stress shadows every decision I make. Should I buy the bus ticket or walk and risk being late? Should I order takeout or stretch my last dollar on instant noodles? Each choice feels like a gamble with stakes that never seem to get smaller. I live in a small apartment shared with 2 roommates, partly because alone would be impossible. Even splitting rent, it feels like we're all just trying not to drown. Sometimes I lie awake at night, the silence pressing in, and the numbers in my bank account flashing in my mind. I wonder how this happened, how I ended up trapped in a cycle where earning more feels like a distant dream, and expenses grow faster than I can run. I'm constantly juggling bills and deadlines. There are days I skip doctor appointments because the copay is too high. I delay fixing the leaky faucet in my kitchen because a plumber's visit costs more than I can spare. Every necessity turns into a negotiation with myself about what I can afford to put off, but those delays only add stress and frustration. On good days, I remind myself that I'm doing my best. I try to stay positive. I look for deals, clip coupons, and even take on extra shifts when possible. I track every dollar with a spreadsheet that feels more like a report card of survival than progress. But the truth is, it's hard not to feel like I'm failing. The system around me feels designed to keep people like me barely scraping by, working harder but never getting ahead. There's also a loneliness in all this. I see friends and family making plans, buying cars, traveling, moving into homes, and I'm stuck. Sometimes I get invited out, but I have to say no because even a small dinner or movie ticket feels like too much. I don't want to admit it, but the financial pressure isolates me. It's like carrying an invisible barrier between me and the rest of the world. I dream about what life could be without this constant pressure. I want to save enough to take a trip somewhere I've never been, to maybe start my own small business someday, to feel secure enough to think about retirement instead of just next month's rent. I want to go back to school and finish that degree I put on hold. But those dreams seem so far away, like stars I can see but can't reach. Some days, the weight of it all makes me question myself. Am I not working hard enough? Am I doing something wrong? But deep down, I know it's bigger than just me. It's the rising costs, stagnant wages, and the gap between what's needed to live and what people actually earn. It's a system that feels rigged to keep most people chasing the next paycheck without ever catching a break. Still, I hold on to hope. I talk to friends who understand, and sometimes we share stories about what we want life to look like. Those conversations remind me I'm not alone. I try to focus on small victories, finally paying off a credit card, finding a cheaper phone plan, cooking a decent meal after a tough week. These moments matter. Living like this is hard. It's raw and scary, but it's also real. I'm trying to keep going, to find balance between survival and dreaming. Because even when the system feels overwhelming and unfair, I want to believe there's a way out. I want to believe that someday, this pressure will ease, and I'll be free to live the life I've imagined, not just the one I'm forced to endure. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach that doesn't quite go away. It's not the usual kind of stress that disappears after a cup of coffee or a quick shower. It's the slow, persistent weight of knowing that the bills I have to pay today, and the ones looming in the next month, will swallow up most of what I earn, leaving barely anything for me to live on. I'm 27, working a full-time job that barely pays more than minimum wage, and yet the cost of rent, groceries, transportation, and all the other essentials feels like a tidal wave that keeps rising, no matter how hard I swim to stay afloat. Some mornings, I stare at my phone screen, scrolling through bank notifications and the balance in my account, hoping for a small miracle, maybe an unexpected refund, a transfer from a relative, anything. But the number never changes in a way that helps. Instead, it's a stark reminder that I'm trapped in a system where expenses rise faster than my paycheck ever will. Rent has taken over half of my monthly income for years now. The apartment I live in isn't much, a cramped, aging studio in a neighborhood that's become more expensive and less welcoming with every new coffee shop or boutique that opens. I remember when I first moved in, the landlord told me the rent would probably go up a little each year. At the time, I thought maybe a 2 to 3% increase wouldn't be a big deal. But those small percentages add up. Now, rent has jumped nearly 20% since I signed the lease, and the landlord's latest notice made it clear it's not stopping anytime soon. The rest of my expenses are no better. Food prices have climbed steadily. A simple trip to the grocery store feels like an act of budgeting gymnastics. I find myself choosing between fresh produce and cheaper, less nutritious options just to stretch every dollar. Sometimes, I go to bed hungry because I couldn't quite make the math work that day, a shameful, quiet surrender that I never imagined would be part of my adult life. Everyday decisions are colored by this pressure. I can't afford to go out with friends or even call them as often as I want because I don't want to talk about how tight things are. Socializing costs money, a coffee, a bus ticket, a night out, and that money is better spent on necessities, or saved, if I'm lucky enough to have some left over. It's isolating. I watch others around me chase their dreams, travel, start families, buy homes, and it feels like I'm stuck behind a glass wall, watching a life that's slowly slipping out of reach. Work isn't a refuge either. I'm grateful to have a steady job, but it's a constant grind. The hours are long, the tasks repetitive, and the pay doesn't reflect the effort. Promotions and raises feel like distant fantasies, reserved for the few who have connections or luck on their side. I've tried to pick up side gigs, but those only drain my energy more, leaving me exhausted and barely able to keep up with my main job. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm working hard or just running in place. Financial pressure is a shadow in every aspect of my emotional well-being. I live with a low-level anxiety that simmers under the surface, a worry about what will happen if an unexpected expense comes up, like a medical bill or a broken appliance. I often lie awake at night, thinking about what could go wrong, and how little room I have to deal with it. It's exhausting and lonely. The feeling of being trapped is the hardest part. I keep telling myself this is temporary, that things will get better, but it's been years of postponing hopes and dreams. I've put off going back to school because the tuition feels like an impossible mountain. I shelved the idea of moving to a better neighborhood, or saving for a down payment on a house. Even starting a family feels like a distant dream, one I can't imagine supporting right now. I cope the best I can. I've learned to be frugal in ways I never thought possible, cooking every meal, repairing clothes instead of replacing them, skipping small comforts like a new phone or a haircut unless absolutely necessary. I try to find joy in the little things that don't cost money, evening walks, reading books from the library, catching up on free shows online. Sometimes, I reach out to a friend or two, though I'm careful not to burden them with my financial worries. But beneath the surface, there's a quiet hope. I still believe in a future where I'm not just surviving but thriving. I imagine a day when I can wake up without that knot in my stomach, when my paycheck covers my expenses with a little left over for the unexpected and the joyful. I picture myself finally enrolling in classes, building a career that pays a living wage, and maybe one day, moving into a home where I can breathe freely. Until then, I keep going, because what choice do I have? Each day, I balance the reality of my financial pressures with the fragile hope that someday, somehow, things will change. It's not easy, and some days are harder than others. But telling this story, being honest about the struggle, helps me feel less alone. And maybe that's the first step toward breaking free of this cycle. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.